Good evening there, fellow nerds. Welcome again to our weekly waffle on the weather. Hope you are all lovely and rugged up. We did promise it was going to be cold, and it has been chilly. But at least we're also seeing some good rainfall. Well, not good rainfall. At least we see some good showers anyway. Let's put it that way. But anyway, it's better than nothing, and it's good to see that this sort of onshore flow and wet pattern has sort of continued, which is great to see, given June was fairly dry. So good start to July for most places. Obviously, some places still aren't doing well, but anyway, we've got lots to talk about tonight. So let's pop it in, and we'll first of all say quickly hello to our chat. Hello, Mr. Mayor from downtown Camden. Hope your hips. I'm gonna get it right this time. I thought it was your shoulders, but anyway, I hope your hips are doing better. That bursitis stuff sucks big time. Hello, Miss Rachel. Hope you're fantastic, and I hope everything is going well in downtown where you are. Nice and good. Mr. Well is here. Good evening, Mr. Well, and thank you again for your assistance looking after the duties of saying hello to everybody and keeping everything running smoothly while I am distracted waffling on about weather, sorry. And a good evening to anybody else who's tuning in after this. Hopefully we get everybody to pop around tonight and have a chat and see what's happening around the place. But, well, let's get into it because we are into time. Let's go. Rightio. So we have got, at the moment, as I said, lovely stream showers coming in here from the south and in the southeast, as we spoke about in the forecast this morning. Finally, the wind's backed around from the south to the southeast. This is quite a sort of vigorous wet change. You can see just here around, it was almost bang on what we said. We said around lunchtime we would see that the winds sort of start to crank around. And you can see here this light blue. That is actually not rain, actually. That's just cloud and actually moisture coming from the southeast. And you can see as those southeast started to build and push into the west, you can see those showers start to develop. And a little bit earlier than which is great, obviously, but they'll get only quite light. You can see light blues, not much really happening. And then you can see the thicker showers starting to develop now. And the good thing is you can see this popcorn effect, and you can see the southeasterly is pushing right up into actually the Blue Mountains now, which is great because that'll actually start causing some orographic effects into the western areas as well. So everybody should get something. But the thing that's really making me happier, as you can see here, the showers are building out quite well out to sea, which is a good way that they'll hang around for a few hours. And it won't necessarily be massively widespread or overly heavy, but localized, you can decently you can get a decent drop. I mean, there's been a few sort of decent showers already pushing from the southeast across the coast, so let's hope they continue their journey into the west. And as I said, the more that this moist stream, this onshore flow pushes up against the Blue Mountains and gets sort of captured and pushed against that Great Dividing Range, the more chances of the west getting as well as that orographic effect, and the moisture just banks up like a dam and then starts to obviously get to a point where it's saturated and starts falling as showers, and everybody seems to benefit. Unfortunately, normally what happens, so in that first couple of sort of hours, is that sort of middle area, what I call inner, which is basically anywhere sort of west of that, really probably almost Terry Hills to Campbelltown, maybe Hornsby to Campbelltown, but so that corridor to about Blacktown, a bit further west in that sort of corridor along here, tends to miss out initially until that onshore flow does get thick enough. But good thing is we should see some showers pushing in again, as I said, for most of the evening and into overnight. And then we'll look at the rest of the week very shortly. And let's have a look. Rainfall now since 9 a.m. You can see again, as I said, those showers are concentrated on the coast. You can see light white, which is basically light showers pushing right in. And good to see here these little pop-ups on the eastern side of the Blue Mountains and the Great Dividing Range, which starts to show that orographic effect is starting to kick in. You can see even some darker blue returns there, which is getting up into a couple of mils, which is a good sign. And what we want to see is them start to build across the night. So I'll just refresh them because you can see actually how much is built just in the last few frames. You can really start, and that's getting that real line, like so stream showers look to it, with these the showers they form in these like lines and patterns. Great sign that there's some organisation about it. And you can see again even now that there's more white in those last couple of frames. So things are pushing in west, and it's looking to be a fairly cool and moist week, actually. All right, let's have a quick look at what. Oh, don't ruin that. That's the week ahead. We don't. Wait, spoilers, spoiler alert. All right, let's go. We'll look at the temps for today, and we can see it was a chilly day. There was a little bit extra sun as that south southerly decided to take its sweet time as usual, which we're all used to that. But by and by, it was pretty much bang on. I think the west got an extra degree more than they probably were expecting, and I did actually flag that in the forecast, and that was basis just exactly what time the change arrived. And initially, it wasn't that as much as a surge. As I said, the main stuff actually moved in overnight, and it was just it's actually like it's a bulb or a sphere of like colder air above. It's moving across the east, and the showers and the southerlies are sort of a consequence of that. But yeah, it did take a little bit more longer than, not unsurprising, but then you can see temps in the east did not climb much at all today, with air Fry Hill 15.8, which is laughable, given that it's again one of the warmest temps on the coast, probably in the whole of the southern hemisphere. I would ignore that 15.8. I don't think that it got 15.8 at all, because even areas so close as that into the west, which would be milder, because they're away from that sort of southerly influence, only got managed to 15.5. And then you look at Bankstown and 15.6. There's no way Obbs Hill was warmer than them, other than some urban heat stuff, which is just an absolute joke. But anyway, I ranted about that enough. And do you think they would actually move that gauge soon, or fix that AWS side out? But the Bureau, in its wisdom, just continued to leave it there, because I think it pretty feeds into their agenda about everything's warming and we're going to die soon. But the reality is, when you look at other gauges across the place, 14.7 at the airport, it was chilly all day today, and I can attest that. And even Sydney Harbour, which is always a few degrees warm because of the maritime effect, is only 14.8. It just goes to show that the consistent uniform temps, that air mass, 15.8 is absolutely a load of trash, and we're just going to throw that in the bin. And it absolutely then makes perfect sense. We can see some of those temps a little bit milder into the west, because, as I said, that flow took its sweet time getting there. But now that the flow is starting to push onshore quite nicely, I mean, 13.8 at Holsworthy. That's a cold little hole out there. I notice that in these sort of situations, it always seems to um, be one of the lowest temps, and I wonder if it's a bit of topography or something playing out there. I know that it's away from the main place of Holsworthy, isn't it? It's a bit more up in the sort of the valleys and sort of bits and pieces that are in towards the back of Menai and the sort of northern part of the national park. And none of it's Warrenora National Park, or it's Appin, or whatever it is. But it's one of those sort of national parks that back up right into the base of into Liverpool and the back of Campbelltown there, and right across the Georges River catchment there. So surprising there, 13.8 though at Holsworth. That's bloody cold. So they only changed 4 degrees today. The old Camden Town got 10 to 14, 10 to 15, 16, not bad for them, but Campbelltown, 10 to 14 as well. Shout out to Mr. Dine out there in lovely downtown Campbelltown. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, not much temp movement at all today. In fact, the airport only moved 2 degrees, 2 degrees in the whole day. It was cold, and it was cold all day. Again, which is why I think that Obbs Air Fry Hill temperature is absolute joke. And not surprising, Richmond and Penrith, you got up to 17. Absolutely, bit of downslope there from the Blue Mountains, a bit of the air warming up as it sort of slid across, and they also had a bit more sun, and that allowed them to get scrape that extra degrees out. But I mean, 70 degrees is not warm, let's be honest, but it's certainly milder than 13.8 and 14, which is what most of the basin had today. In fact, you can see the spread right across, 14s, 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 a few 15s. So it was chilly, and the winds actually picked up quite this afternoon. If you're on the coast, you would have noticed there's gusts increasing quite dramatically. We had gusts up to 76 k's an hour at Guatemala. They've been hammered by southerlies most of the day, and they do tend to catch that real edge of the southerly stream that normally barrels into sort of the northern sunny coast and Newcastle, because of the way of the geography and topography sort of arcs out to the east that way on the northeast. But Guatemala, does tend to catch and catches them early when it's normally a great barometer or indicator for the changes when they push through. You can watch watermelon winds creep around to the south and then increase dramatically, and you know that the change is not far away. And it's actually been pretty gusty right along the coast today. So seen plenty of readings on the coast between 50 and 70 k's an hour. And it's starting to push into the west too. We're starting to see 30s and 40s and 50s. And it will stay this way probably most this week if we're looking at the forecast very certainly. So not bad, I say. It's someone wanted winter. Well, it's arrived. All right, let's have a quick look at. We're not going to look at the spoilers. We're going to look into now what's the weather's going to be, or the rainfall outlook for this week's going to be. And we're going to quickly look at the Met Center IO, which is the great Australian company. We can see here, this is only one model, Rosalind, by the way. So this doesn't cover all the models, so they tend to focus. It looks like actually, it looks like they use an Access product. Although I thought it might have been Tomorrow.io, which is I think another weather provider now with a bit of an AI like Meteor Blue is, but I'm not sure. But this tends to sort of marry up with Access, so they seem to prefer the Access stuff. But you can see pretty standard showers a week. You can see, you know, the sort of baseline of 26 mils, and the sort of the highest sort of range is 88 mils. So what they're saying is basically we can expect anywhere between sort of 30 mils to 88 mils across the week. And you can see that's just a steady accumulation. There's no one heavy fall, other than tomorrow does look to be probably the wettest day of the week. But you can see 5 to 10 mils basically every day, right and through next weekend would be very welcome if it does come off. Happy about that. I'm sure we all are. And this is actually the probability. So this is, and you can see this guaranteed basically every day is going to get 1 to 5 mils at least, and then it sort of starts to taper off. But you can see a couple of standout days here. Monday, particularly, you're starting to push up into 15 to 25 mils. And I mean, still low probability, but that's not bad. And also Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday actually pushed up into 50 mils, which is incredible. And I think there's a bit of a feature moving through, so we'll pop in and have a look at that very shortly. But you see, look, guaranteed showers a week, and that's the only main red flag about this is that the models have back and forth about this all week. So, and I resisted sort of saying much about it because every time I log in, the run says something different. One day you'll see showers, next run there's absolutely nothing, and it's been a pain in the backside to try and do that rainfall outlook. I can tell you, because every time I look at it, it's different. Shock horror, I know. All right, so let's have a look. We're going to look at Monday. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the Bureau ADFD model doesn't have a lot for Monday, whereas you can see there very clearly other models sort of pushing up. And so we'll have to check out, why that is when we pull up Windy in a minute. But you can see, 7.5, 5 to 7.5 mils. But the showers are pushing around to west, which is great. Lovely to see that. And again, into Tuesday, this flow does back off. You can see it probably turns a little bit more southerly because you can see that by the focus in Newcastle and just the scraping on the coast, but still, they're still pushing in further bit to the west. Unfortunately, the far west misses out. And into Wednesday now, they turn back more to the southeast again as the systems amplify again and start to pick up. And you can see that 7.5 mil sort of starting to encroach. You can see pushing right into the west again. That green into the Hunter shows that there's still quite a bit of a southerly component to it, which is what we want. And this is what I was flagging before about that increase into the end of the next week. And you can see here, obviously something's encouraging that, so we'll definitely check them. You can see falls pushing well into the Blue Mountains as well. So, good sign there. That's there's 7.5 to 15 mils for the coast. We'll see. And that continues. And this indicates to me without even looking at it, but it indicates here there's two systems going on. We've got that onshore surface flow, and then you've got an upper system coming through. And because you can see this widespread rainfall here right across from the west coming. So there's two systems sort of feeding and complementing each other by the end of the week, which is pretty why that the rainfall outlook was going for sort of decent falls Thursday into Friday, because if the two systems are complementing each other, you've got a better chance of, a moist column from the surface all the way up to upper levels, which means you've got a better chance of rainfall as opposed to where there's sort of surface-driven events where, it's hit and miss. All right. And so showers continue into Saturday, but you can see now that the upper system is starting to take place, and that surface system is starting to ease off, because you can see the sort of onion sort of layers, bandings, well off the coast now, and you can see this light shading right across, and you can see the inner, like the western stuff, where the heavier rain falls, and that very clearly shows there's an upper system moving through, and it's taking over. So it becomes a bit more isolated for us into Saturday. But overall, the bureau is going for the ADFD anyway models going for pretty, pretty sizable and decent falls right across the whole week actually, from 10 mils out in the west right through to 40 mils, pretty encroaching 50 mils on the coast is what we saw before, which is why I think this also Met Center or Weather Watch uses the bureau's access product because that's pretty much what they were saying too. But by and by, not bad actually. Um, I don't know. That's a buzz weird. All right, we're going to turn into now and have a quick look at what's the whys are and just what is driving this weather. So we're going to pull up our friend Windy, so give it a little time to have some conniptions and uh, and do all the things that it does. We all know that windy loves it. You can see these bandings, which is the surges of sort of the southerly air as it kicks up and wraps around back onto the coasts. And that's where we have these sort of pulses and showers going on and off. And we can see here, it stays pretty good. And then, as we said, the winds will just sort of ease again. Then you can see a bit of a surge into tomorrow morning. You can see how it pulses back and forward, and that sort of that showers. And you can see then as we push into Monday, you can see that the southeasterlies really actually start to kick up and get right pushing in across the Blue Mountains and into New South Wales. And that's going to help bring those showers right into Western Sydney, also into the Blue Mountains. And that starts at about late morning. So, it's sort of 11 to midday. And then you can see it sort of pushes right through and hangs right in and starts to ease at night time, which is quite not unusual. As the flow dies down because obviously the day and night effects and the local sort of inland breezes start to pick up again and sort of push the flow offshore. You can see here the winds start to kick around to that sort of southwest and a bit more west. And we're heading to Monday night, and of course the flow will then pull back offshore as we just showed and turns a bit more southerly, which is what we pointed out in the rain outlook. And still pushing on shore though, so we should see some sort of isolated showers through Tuesday, but most of it will be off the coast and sort of focused into the northern sunny coast and into the Hunter, as we showed you around look at rainfall outlook. And then we'll push into Wednesday and we'll see them start to push back around to the southeast. I imagine is what the rainfall. It's going to make us look alive. But here we go, slowly around. Nope, going to stay southerly or Wednesday, which is interesting. So I'm not sure that. Yeah, I think EC's disagreeing with Axis. Let's see what Axis says there, because that's not what we saw from the. Yeah, you can see a bit more of a southeast from the bureau there. So bit of a dispute between the models, and of course, and then Thursdays when we get to see those showers pick up again. Now, looking at EC's got here, I'm not sure. You can see here there's a bit of a trough starting to build because you see these, and it's only quite weak, but you can see here how the winds are sort of all flowing in again and they're hitting this sort of line here and then suddenly sort of changing directions. And that just does tend to indicate a weak coastal trough. Not much there. You can see that weak coastal trough really starting to just sit on the coast there, which is why there's showers, and then it starts to clear on Friday, what we saw. All right, let's have a quick look at, we'll go for the accumulated rainfall outlook now for everybody. Won't go through each of the models. We've seen what the Bureau thinks. Let's have a look what AC thinks. So into Monday, we'll put them on yes, with these showers. You see EC is definitely not interested in Monday like other models are. So mainly coastal, 5 to 7 mils. And then we will leave that there and we'll push into Tuesday. Let me just squeeze it up a bit. This is where it gets a bit snippy. All right, there we go. So we can see here. Oh, okay. Let's do windy chucking conniptions. We see here in Tuesday again, as I said, pretty much coastal, a few little bits and pieces, but it's pretty much matching what the ADFD said, which is cool. And it's good to see that they've sort of mainly all got the pattern sort of now. It's now just about how far inland that southeasterly penetrates or the moisture penetrates. You can see here EC wants to keep stuff more coastal and keep the west sort of cloudy and cool, but not much penetrating there. Into Thursday, you can see him pick up again as that weak coastal trough starts to pick up. You can see quite widespread falls there, and you can see the element of, you can see the Illawarra here is really not in that because of the way that the topography sort of arcs around, and it's that pretty more of an easterly, maybe looking at that, maybe southeasterly a little bit, although you'd think this is a bit more southeasterly than northern Illawarra does tend to do well, but not this time, so that's an interesting sort of feature. We'll keep an eye on that. And then it picks up quite into Friday, which is what we saw in the rainfall outlooks as well. Some widespread good falls there, and then we should see it taper off into Saturday, which we do. In fact, it almost disappears, and that's pretty about the size of it. Let's have a look at what we'll have a look at. We'll see what Mr. Icon's doing first. It not interested at all, so that's interesting. It's out on its own there. You see coastal showers on Tuesday. Wednesday the same, Thursday much the same, and Friday not interested at all. So that's an interesting sort of scenario there. And going to GFS. GFS, of course, has a pretty much consistent with what EC was seeing. You can see then the light showers on Tuesday, pulling it back to the coast, and Wednesday they're much the same. In fact, dying out. Thursday at all not interested, unlike what we saw before. And Friday, it's keeping this system, whatever it's going to be, just well off the coast, enough to drag the showers away, and all over Red Rover. So it's interesting sort of twist to what we've seen so far. And lastly, we'll have a quick look at access the bureaus. We can see here those showers sort of scattered about coastal and the orographic effect. So very much confirms what I thought about them sort of using. And then you can see here very much coastal on the Tuesday, which is what we saw. Not much else in that southerly stream. Wednesday, a bit of a quieter day, still coastal showers, but not much else happening elsewhere. Thursday, they actually then differentiate quite significantly. They push into Friday. We can see that again, quite a sort of coastal accumulation there into Friday, and then easing on Saturday and clearing out Saturday and Sunday, as you can see. So all in all, we'll now have a look at the overall sort of figures. We'll go through for a proper week. So here we go. So, it's another 40 to 50 mils on the coast, bit of a hole there in the west. That's according to Access anyway. You can see a bit of that orographic effect, which we talked about. Obviously, the coastal showers in this sort of environment, or coast always does well in this environment, these stream showers. You can see EC again, pretty much Access, but it does tend to push stuff more further into the west, which is good. And you can see again the orographic effect of those that southerly onshore flow pushing up, or the southeast anyway, pushing up into the Blue Mountains. And again, pretty much consistent, high 30s to 50s on the coast. And GFS now. GFS is obviously the less or the most disinterested out of all of them, but it does push a bit more into the west. But you can see, just generally speaking, about an inch this week for the coast, and you can see Icon not interested at all. Basically, maybe scrape an inch in, but a really hard line between that Hornsby to just pretty Menai actually on this stage. I normally sort of mention Menai, sort of Hornsby to Menai in the forecast, because it seems to be the real delineation between this coastal sort of temperate sort of zone, and then get into this more, I don't know what you would call it, because it's not a, it's sort of like a transition zone between the sort of coastal and to the more sort of the plains of the basins. When you get into that sort of western part, it seems to be your real delineation between, again, as I said, between Hornsby and sort of Menai and sort of that Campbelltown sort of corridor across here, Parramatta, Liverpool. But Icon very clearly showing it's this is more a coastal feature this week, but wind direction will make a huge difference for this. All right, so we're going to now have a look at the winds, and this is going to be look at the rainfall that's coming ahead now, not just in terms of that. We'll look at the rainfall for the next sort of rest of winter, early into spring, and then check it out week by week and see what the models are saying. All right, so this is we know that Copernicus has been updated because we put a post about the other day just flagging about stuff, and you can see here, this is for temps for July, and you can see here actually below average temps now across NT, which is what completely different to what they were forecasting last month. So you can see how much things changed in just a few weeks, and that's why it's very dangerous to go around making, life or death declarations about what El Nino may or may not do when month to month these things are changing, but there's no surprise that this leading towards warmer for us, of course, because of this cloud cover and bits and pieces and moist onshore flows tends to have the cloud cover at night time. Although we did see last week where that was a bit reversed, where we saw, that even cooler nights, and tonight will be one of those things as well. There'll be a bit of cloud around, but because that cold air above and subsiding, it's going to feel pretty chilly, even though the temperature reading may say, 10 to 14 overnight, it's going to feel pretty cold. So don't forget your doonas tonight. But not surprised there with the temperatures. All right, let's have a look now this is now the rest of winter and into early spring. You can see the cool anomalies across the north persist, and you won't see that in any of the bureau maps because it's going to be all just red as usual. But interestingly, that Copernicus is continuing to pull up this cooler scenario, which is an interesting feature given that we've all heard about this El Nino being in place, and that image there says to me quite significant trade activity because you can sort of see from about mid sort of Queensland up, it's cooler, which would suggest it's quite a bit of cloud and onshore activity from trade winds, which is the high pressure systems down near us, and they're pushing up their southeasterlies right across. So that around here they'll be located, and they fling up the cool air across the northern Tasman and the southern Coral Sea or the western Pacific here. And as it does, it scoops up the air, and then as it hooks up through, um, you get stream showers along the central and northern tropical coast of Queensland, and they sort of dry out as they come across here. But because the winds are cooler and drier, the top end tends to get cooler, and then the winds hit the sort of the equator and then bend around and feed into the monsoon seasons, obviously in the northern hemisphere. You can see the tongue of the El Nino sort of starting to push in here to on the top edge of the picture there. Nothing overly dramatic yet, but starting to warm up definitely over there. All right, so that's the end of winter and into early spring. So you can see it's pretty much what we've consistently seen here, which does tend to indicate that we're going to sort of see this continuation of sort of onshore winds, a bit of cloud around, for me anyway, well into August, but we'll see. All right, let's go. This is the rainfall outlooks now this is the global models, mind you. So this is a EC Met Office, which is the UK. You've got Meteo France, you've got the Canadian CMCC. DWD is the German, which is the Icon or DWD. NCEP, which is the American. JMA, which is the Japanese. ECCC, I think that's another Euro one. Off the top of my head, and of course, our own bureau, they all feed into this one um, output, which is the C3S multi-system produced by Copernicus, which is the European climate monitoring agency. And you can see here for July, not unsurprising, there's lower anomalies, but this is actually already wrong, given that the northwest cloud event we've already had. I think you'll find most of the inland areas are already now above average. So this is the big joke about everything. They put this out on the 1st of July. It takes them a whole month to do this, and then 1 or 2 days later, it's actually incorrect already. The other thing you can see briefly here, and it's probably not as uh, evident, so I might just make it a bit bigger for everybody. You can see here, you can see the coast actually remains pretty much about average. You can see that patch of white right up till about probably southern mid-north coast, northern Hunter. I think as the coastline starts to hook around, which does tend to indicate, fairly reliable southerly changes, or at least onshore sort of winds feeding into, because you can see sort of the way that sort of bulges up there and then suddenly dies off. But this is already wrong, so who knows what July's going to look like now. We'll have a look at what CFS thinks very shortly, because it updates quite regularly, thank goodness. And this is again the C3S multi, which is obviously all the world's climate models, weather outlook models, weather models, and the deterministic ones as well. What its take on August is, and you can see here pretty much the same pattern, although you see there's negative anomalies starting to push down, and that's pretty just as the El Nino starts to really kick in. You can see here this is pretty classic standard signature for an El Nino. You've got incredible above average anomalies and then drastically stop. And then you can see right across the tropical areas, pretty substantial lower anomalies or below average anomalies, which is not good for them. Um, and you can see the effects here of the starving of moisture flowing into these systems from the east and the northeast. Again, pretty much anomalies pushing wet into central Australia now. But we'll see if that happens or not, because we've already seen that the July one's very wrong. And now we're pushing into September, the start of spring, and you can see again that same pattern persists. The same negative anomalies right across the tropics, the same positive anomalies right across the Nino zones where we expect to see it. You'll see, though, the average conditions start to push back towards the east, and that's as the heat low starts to wind up and move towards the northern Australia wet season. And that's interesting in itself because there's quite substantial negative anomalies there. So I'm assuming that there may be some helping factors here from uh, the Indian Ocean there, the East Indian Ocean there. Maybe something coming out of the Northern Coral Sea as well. But still, negative anomalies across, and this looks very much like an El Nino pattern. Although it's not the beat all and end all and end of the world stuff you've been reading about on some of these ridiculous Facebook posts that we've sort of covered. All right, let's head into now the next 3 months. So this is the end of winter and the start of spring. Just one of the things that the Copernicus, or this is the site we're quoting from now, they don't go out very much further other than a few weeks. So they don't issue these sort of long range forecasts, which I think is a good thing. Given they can't get this month right. But you can see here, generally speaking, for the 3 months, you can see these widespread negative anomalies. Not unsurprising. But again, will we see it or not? Let's just or hold our judgment. But again, across the Nino zones, above average, and across the tropics, well below average, which is concerning for them. And also across the Indonesian archipelago, of course, because then we start to see those fires, and we have that smoke coming from them, which does tend to impact northern Australia too. So let's hope that we don't see this substantial anomalies like we see it right now, because otherwise the smoke impacts of northern Australia will be pretty horrendous when the winds swing around to that northwesterly as the monsoon or the northern Australia wet season starts to ramp up. It's not what we want to see. Alrighty, and we're going to look into now spring overall itself. You can see those negative anomalies pushing way up into, and that's as the transitions into the northern Australia wet season. You can see that obviously that lack of moisture starting to really push down through the Western Pacific and the Coral Sea, and pushing across Australia. Again, not unsurprising with an El Nino, and you can see here how the band of above average anomalies for the Nino zones is significantly increased, and that's not unsurprising. We can see on the information we've already been posted that it's expected to intensify around this time. Not unsurprising. So again, the negative anomalies across the tropics, although some the northern end of Indonesia and Malaysia around there are showing some positive ones. I don't know why it is. Every time I start this, I just start yawning. I'm not even tired, but I don't know. I think it must be something to do with I was just rabbiting on and running out of oxygen. Maybe I need an oxygen tank next to the desk. But these images aren't going to shock anybody, but I will say that nothing here also screams the death sentence that we've been seeing from irresponsible weather pages, and also the irresponsible Bureau of Meteorology. To be fair, if this is what the world's weather models are saying, minus 10 to minus 50, that's not a huge anomaly in terms of that across 3 months. It's not good. We don't want to see negative anomalies, but we've had a few years of above average stuff, so it's going to be always a equalization and balance out. Just like in physics, that there's always an opposite and equal reaction. So part of the climate, part have always been here. This is what we deal with, and nothing at this stage. We had those brown anomalies across Australia, and then perhaps we could say there's going to be interesting, but even here, that nothing screams dangerous fire season like they've been preaching at this stage. Widespread anomalies, no good. But nothing catastrophic just yet, but that, of course, this is a long way away. All right, we're going to pop in now and have a look at what our friends at CFS are saying in terms of the week-to-week stuff, and then we'll have a quick look at those saying at the longer term for the end of winter and also into spring. We might even take a peek at summer. You can see, again, this is this week, and you can see the interesting thing about this is that dip to the south here, which does definitely indicate some moisture surging from the north and tipping south. Although I'm not sure, but you can see that, again, those stream showers really kicking up across the Queensland coast here, which is what I said. So very much you get these strong ridges moving in. I think this is just a consequence of that onshore flow we're seeing. Drier week this week for inland New South Wales, but that's not unusual this time of year. All right, let's have a look at next week. And negative anomalies across tropics, not unsurprising. This is interesting. Now, we didn't see anything like this on the other models, but look at this. Northwest cloud band, and that looks fairly lowish signature because you see that core set of lows, and then you can see the consequences. And the reason why I say that is because of two things. Obviously, the pattern we can see over here, but this pattern here, this very much looks like a long wave trough. You can see positive anomalies right through from the Indian Ocean across the continent and then off to the coast. Normally indicates that an upper system moving across with jet stream assistance and probably a Rossby wave, I'd say, looking at this upper trough. This is a sort of setup we start to watch very closely and very intently with regards to potential ECL development. So that is something we'll obviously take all of our attention. And that's the end of next week, I think, looking at that. So not far away. Let's go. And we're looking now towards the back end of July. You can see nothing like what we saw on the other models. Persistent sort of average to below average on the southwest WA. And we see the onshore flow into northern Queensland starts to back off. You can see, again, this moisture still coming through from northwest WA, which is interesting. And then this is not an ECL pattern. This is more a Tasman low or even a decent cold change, because you can see how it bends around Tassie there, which is quite often the pattern you'll see with good southerly changes pushing up. It hits the obviously landmass and arcs around it, wraps around it. So that's a good sign. Good sign for the snowfields too, hopefully. Again, you go back to sort of that pattern, a bit of drying in the western New South Wales, or western eastern New South Wales, or eastern western New South Wales, however you pronounce that. But on the western side of the Great Dividing Range, still this moisture source off WA, which you can see those negative anomalies starting to push down into the Coral Sea as El Nino builds, which is unusual. And then you can see still a patch of anomalies on the coast and just clipping Jervis Bay and the Illawarra there, and the southern sort of Sydney Basin, interestingly enough. Pushing into August quickly now, you can see, again, very suspicious looking pattern, but you can see there's no upper sort of connection here. So to me, this looks like a Tasman low with a pretty decent cold change wrapping around the back end of it. But the good thing about it here is that it arcs up over towards the snowies too. So hopefully it gives the snowies some cold air and some moisture. And then pushing into, that's the end of August, we can see there, that's as far as we can go. All right, we're going to quickly look at the month ahead. Let's go. So we'll go to, we won't have July now anymore. We'll, because we're going to have August. And you can see here, August, CFS is completely the opposite of what we said before. You can see quite a actually unstable wet pattern, including quite up and down the New South Wales coast. So will be interesting to see how this verifies out, whether it's, this is 18Z too. I wanted to turn off 18Z. I don't like 18Z. And when you go to 12Z, which is a better run, obviously, you can see there's actually a stronger pattern here. So that's going to be a fascinating battle between the Copernicus, where all the cash goes, and the CFS model. Looking to the start of September, the start of spring, September, start of spring, you can see there's dry anomalies, and that's really that El Nino kicking in now, the moisture starvation across the Coral Sea, Western Pacific, normally starts to flow down inland and get caught by these troughs as spring starts to make its presence known. We start to see the westerlies and stuff retrograde back to the south. We start to see the northern Australia wet season start to wind up or get going, and that involves a heat low over here that's sort of northwest WA and western NT, southwestern NT. And normally what it does is it drags the moisture in from the coral sea down through, and we get those sort of warmer days and the occasional storm outbreak in spring. Doesn't look like it's going to be happening this time. This looks to be cold change related. So um, not the best news. October coming in, and you can see a bit of a mixed pattern, still mostly average. Obviously, the dry Queensland coast again being starved of moisture, and inland New South Wales as well. But the coast around us, we still stay reasonably average, even just slightly above. So uh, CFS, and look at that for November now. That's fascinating, considering we just saw the other models. That's incredibly fascinating. That's wow. That's widespread above average anomalies right across most of Australia. Uh, yeah, to be honest, that's quite unique because you don't often see in November, especially an event that not only is Southwest WA copying it, but then you've got Eastern Australia copying it. It's normal one or the other. So that's fascinating. I'm not even not sure what would be the cause of that. That's not even a northwest cloud band because normally you get with northwest cloud band, you get the classic, sort of tongue sort of signature coming across here, but that's a slab of hello, everybody, you're wet. Moisten me up, baby. Um, yeah, so uh, fascinating. And it's not even got like that lovely sort of linear sort of picture like you can see like it comes with a Rossby wave or with an upper trough, for example, or even jet stream activity. It's a fat slab of goodness, wet goodness. So keep that in the back of our minds. Pushing into summer now, I mean, you would not know it's an El Nino around, would you? And the death of all Australians coming across to read some pages. I mean, look at this. This is a complete different picture to what we've been sold by the Bureau and other people. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna have to go. I wanted to actually pull out the CFS forecast that we looked at that said June was going to be wet, if you remember, or wetter than other places. Not necessarily wet, but no, I'll have to go and find that. Maybe that's my little project, or someone out there want to have a look as well. But not unsurprising to see the top end and northern Queensland sort of suffering as they're a bit moisture starved, and as that uh, negative anomaly zone starts to push south as the northern Australia wet season starts to kick in, and the Hadley cells, which is associated with the Walker circulation, which is basically how the air moves around the Earth, they start to push south for the summer, which is not surprising. Then this anomaly start to push into northern Australia, which I guess is but interesting. And it persists into January. Like this is going to cause a few head spins. What the hell is you can see here massive widespread anomalies right across, which is interesting because there'd be very lack of there'd be very little time cyclone development looking at that. This all seems to be I don't know what you can't say the moisture's coming from there. Like fascinating, fascinating. And then last thing to the last weekend of summer, what month of summer, weekend of summer, you can see the negative, the anomalies, positive anomalies hang around, and the Southern Ocean stays wet, which is it smells very. I mean, IOD at that time of year is very. Its impact on Australia is very low. It sounds very SAM active because it's obviously not ENSO active. You can see the anomalies here. The top end is going for a very dry, wet season. Looking at this, and also northern Queensland, but not us. So we might have a sneak peek at first look of first month of autumn. Now, this is where I think we're going to start to see the impact of Enzo and El Nino is probably in the autumn. We'll just wait and see. But yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean, still not much negative anomalies there. The poor old top end's going to really suffer though. Um, so if you're up there and you're sort of off the coast, you'd be sort of maybe looking at your water purchases, I think, because you're going to be dry and hot, I'd say, for your wet season or the start of your wet season anyway, and probably for your whole wet season looking at that, which is interesting given that they only had a decent one recently and they had a couple of poor ones before that. So if I remember, they had in the 90s, they sort of had this cycle where they had went through a few years of terrible ones, and then the end of the 90s came around and they had, Cat 5 cyclones and flooding. So be interesting to see if it repeats that cycle. All right, everybody. Well, that's about it for that. That's about the size of it. We've looked at all the stuff going forward there. Interesting times ahead when we've got a head-to-head versus model runs. Now, obviously, we're not going to cherry pick like other places and just focus on one. It's going to be interesting to see just which one verifies. But it's on videotape now, so we can definitely hold them accountable when um, who does or does not come through for us. Of course, we know that, so we can rely on the good old bureau to show us the negative pictures and not the positive ones. All right, so now it's my fun time of the month, our what WTAFs for the month. And this week we're going to look at our good old friend, Mr. Higgins, because we all love him, and he has taken to get onto Facebook this weekend to educate us all about um, the role of Sam and, Enzo and bits and pieces like that. And it's an interesting scenario. But yeah, so this is his post about, the impacts of that. And I actually had to just leave the photographs up so we didn't actually get caught off about it. You can see here the Sam values, and yeah, it's, but highlighting, of course, the negative values of that. But it's a post I want to look at, and hopefully it's not going to, we're not going to lose the information of it. But are you ready? I love a complex completing El Nino climate and Sam weather patterns. And I'll try my best in layman's terms, and we get a slab of text linking to all those graphs. So the fact is that, you know, good old Mr. Higgins, I'm actually impressed he's not actually banging the drum of the other sort of depressing stuff we've seen from other certain sites. But um, again, this weird and wacky weather pattern should eventually break down during July. I mean, well, I love it when people come out and they make the predictions like this. And when we go and pull up CFS, and you can see CFS clearly says, well, you want weird? I'll throw you weird, wacky, and a little bit extra on top of that if that comes off. So I wouldn't be going through and making any predictions about what the go is coming ahead, because we have just seen, even for the last 2 months alone, the models are absolutely incorrect. Like, not just a slightly incorrect, totally wrong. Now, that's not saying they're always going to be wrong either, and I don't know what sort of feedback loop they've got working with them to make sure that um, the forecasts are being tweaked to what's reflective of the current situation, especially given that they said June would be dry, it was wet. They said July would be dry, it's been wet already to start, and inland's already broken their rainfall for the month of July. In fact, we're going to look at that right now. But I mean, this is the sort of stuff that's I talked to you about last week. They use facets or snippets of factual stuff, bit of science there, throws in and reinforces and makes it come across as like this, knowledgeable and quite reliable information. And then they go and say this weird and wacky weather pattern. Like, what? Um, for a start, it's not a weird and wacky weather pattern. It's actually quite usual, quite normal for winter to be like this, because that's why it's called a temperate zone, which is where we are. And we're not in cold in alpine areas, and not in a Mediterranean climate, which is cold winters, cold wet winters, and dry hot summers. We are a temperate zone, which means that we don't have the extremes either side, other than rarely the one-off. So I don't get people; they just don't know how to read weather patterns, nor the climates of the local areas as well, because it's just all too busy about let's click on that coin. And then we talk about this isn't all, and then there's the PDO, the IOD, Kelvin waves, Raspberry waves, MGOs, blah 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 blah. I mean, and then this is the killer for me, which is why I picked this. You're probably reading this thing and yeah, it's pretty normal Higgins post, but like, it's not overly the top what we saw last week with that ridiculous, doom and gloom end of the world sort of infographic we saw. This is the one here. When someone has to say this, I mean, lol, please respect, please respect my authority. Please respect our vast knowledge and respect the weather science. I mean, weird, wacky weather patterns. Yeah, that's weather science. Some people with no real idea who just guessed shouldn't flap their gums in comments. Oh, we wonder who. That includes a few other noob weather pages that keep naming us and others in their posts. Worry about your own shit instead of everyone else's. Hope that helps, Jeff. I love it. I love it. And you could probably say that I'm being a bit of a hypocrite by doing this, but I'm just calling it out. I'm like, actually, I haven't put it out there yourself, and I just think it's hilarious. Um, it's my WTAFs for the week. When you see inconsistent sort of non-science terminology, and then they say, please respect my authority, and appealing to a sense of authoritarianism, and trying to say, you need to believe us because we're telling you what the way it is. That's pass next on it. We never tell you to say that. We never put the rule on you. I will never ever say you believe us, no one else. You're entitled to your opinion. If you think it's not going to happen, great, excellent. Tell me why. Just don't come in the comments and say it's not going to happen. That sort of stuff pisses me off because it takes nothing. It takes no effort to do that, and it takes a lot of effort to put stuff out there and put your opinion out there. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me how I'm wrong. I love it. Love to learn from if you've got some science and that sort of stuff. Show me. Otherwise, you know, have your opinion, but if someone pushes back and laughs at you, then don't get offended by it. But I could quickly look at we're going to quickly look at the rainfall we've got for this month, and then we'll get into some questions and then let you go off into your Sunday night. I meant to put a poll up today, actually. We'll go because I always forget. I was going to actually ask you all about what you thought about the timings for this. I'm going to be past the weather, climate reports and summaries, map of average conditions, weekly rainfall updates for you. What you thought about the timing in terms of being at 6 o'clock. I just struggle with Saturday nights for everybody because I know it's normally at the end of people's sports. It's the one they sit down with their families to have dinner. That's probably the month only month they see them, or time of the month, the night they see them. Why I hate the way the Bureau made their site. They changed it. They used to have like a thing saying, recent rainfall maps. Now you got to actually try and find it. Brain and maybe that might be it. Let's have a look at that. What do you think about time? I was thinking perhaps we could do maybe 5 o'clock might be better to get people along. Not sure. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just floating it out there. About the possibility. And the only reason I picked this time was during summer is that trying to get weather data obviously in time to be discussed. But this time of year, that's not an issue as much. It's all rolled in. Where have they put the recent friggin' weather? So bad. Just complete rainfall and maybe it's under rainfall and weather conditions. Let's have a look. Well, it doesn't even say that. It just says, okay. Yeah, this is what we want to see. But is it though? This is just the game. Where's the maps that show you the week to recent rainfall maps? Maybe this is there we go. There we go. All right, so they normally have month to date. Let's have a look. Now, will they have they might have anomalies. You can see already the areas that were flagged to be dry, and this is it. We'll just go to New South Wales already. So what I was just wanted to bring up the evidence to show you that what I was backing up. You can see here, for a large part of New South Wales where it was said that it was going to be dry, it's already not dry. And you can see, in fact, some areas are, well above. So we're going to deciles here. And deciles give you basically whereabouts in, the spectrum, the rainfalls, where it's an average, below average, or above average, that sort of stuff. You can see, of course, east of the ranges is still a bit below average, and that's not unsurprising. It's only early July. We sort of expected that. But you can see anywhere basically west of the ranges is average or getting into very much above average or almost highest on record. So already those maps we've seen from Copernicus, and I've got it up here just to reference in case. If I go to the right one, here we go. June, July, there you go. Look at that. It's temperature. Dear brain. Temperature again. There we go. Got the right one now. I mean, wrong. Very wrong. Wrong. Issued on the 1st of July, wrong by the 3rd or 3rd of July it was. So where this leaves us going ahead, who knows, because it's wrong. And we can actually go back and have a look at CFS, because the good thing about CFS is it actually has model runs back to. So let's have a look at what it said back on 12th and 30th of June when it talked about July. Let's have a look. So interesting, isn't it? Interesting map, that one. Obviously, the coast is not caught up yet, but look, I mean, pretty much matches what we just saw in the bureau, wasn't it? Not far off it in terms of that. So, congrats to CFS so far. I mean, compare. The billions of dollars are going to Copernicus, which tells us that it's going to look like this, and then the reality is already gone from that. So who knows? Maybe this should be the WTAF for the month, and then we know what the Bureau says as well, which is exactly pretty much what we've seen from the Copernicus outlooks as well. So congrats to Copernicus, the Bureau, and Higgins for our WTAF of the weeks. Fun. All right, I'll pick the radar back up. We'll quickly get some questions going because it is getting late. Oh, Gav makes the question. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. Have a think about it. I'm happy to go to 5 if that makes it easier for people. I know that NRL's in at 5 for some people, so I don't know. Whatever we choose, Sunday is going to be terrible. It can't be later than 7 though, because I have other commitments, including driving around and eating and actually spending time with the better half. So it's going to have to be somewhere around that time frame. And if any earlier in the day, people are shopping, people may retail jobs, what it might be on Sundays as well too. So I don't know. It's a bugbear about the time. So let me know in the comments what you think. Please, love your feedback. I was going to start a poll and totally forgot anyway. All right, quickly, so everybody, we said hello to the people already, and Mr. Brayley, lovely to see you. Thank you for popping by again. Hope you're well at your way. And I think I saw Mr. P there as well. I think that he popped in. I'm not going to again mangle his name, but he did say it was okay to say Peter, Mr. P. PRY, maybe I'll just use PRY. Lovely to see you. Thank you for popping by. You didn't miss much, but you can always catch up on it. We're only about 40 minutes behind. My question on most thing I'm looking forward to is the forecast of the month ahead. Oh, well, we covered that for you, so I hope your questions are answered. Mother Nature snorting and holding a beer, absolutely. I love it. It just, the best thing about it is that it's only like within 2 days. You know, if they'd even looked at the forecast models, they would have seen there was a rainfall event coming, and they just totally ignored it and went ahead and put out things saying it's going to be dry, and it's wet. And the thing is that these things have consequences too, because the farmers go ahead and do things in preparation for, if it's going to be dry, maybe not plant, and then the rain comes, they haven't planted. There's a whole lot of downstream effects that come from these poor model outputs, and so then you get these clowns who want to hang these nightmare scenarios on these 6-month model forecasts are way ahead in the future. And then, yeah, it just frustrates me. Righty. See, that's why there is no snow in the snowfields. Mother Nature snorted. Yeah, actually, she has not been very kind to the snowfields this year. Absolutely. Your website, absolutely terrible. Terrible. I don't know how I don't know how they spent 20 million or whatever it was on that. I could have done it for $20, 10 times better. Flooding in the outback as well. And Lake Eyre, I saw again has filled up again. So this time of year with Lake Eyre got water, and it's great for when it does come into. So maybe if that we start to see some impacts from the Enzo conditions, El Nino, we'll see. But 5 or 6, are we talking PM though? Yeah, 5 AM. I'll do it 5 AM, and then we can all get it nice and early. 5 or 6 is fine with you guys. That's good. I was pretty thinking maybe 5, because then it still lets you guys. I know it's going to cut Mr. Mayor's end of his NRL games he loves to watch off, but if his Tigers aren't playing, that should be okay, I would imagine. We can just have both of us in the background. But I just thought, I just trying to make it a bit more family conscious as well. That way the families can still have their sort of dinners together, and I'm not going to be hearing me yabbering away. All right. I think that was pretty enough for me. There's not many questions. That's good. You've all seen it. So just to recap, this week is looking cool, cloudy, showery. We've seen the outlooks. It's going to be a battle of the Goliath weather models versus the little minnow CFS, but we'll see who's right, because CFS is only currently 1-0 when we look at July, and if we go back and look at June, I'm sure we probably find the same outcome as well. Well, that would be it. I have really enjoyed your company. I will obviously keep everybody updated about where we're going for in terms of times. But in saying that, it has been a pleasure. I have your company. Rug up, stay warm, because it's going to be a chilly few days. It's going to be very nice to actually be like a wet winter sort of week, rather than that sort of sunny and then cold night stuff. So enjoy it. Hopefully the showers get a bit more into the west. We know that they need it. Look after yourselves, be kind to yourselves, and thank you so much for your company, and take care.